Good afternoon and welcome. You're listening live to Heart-to-Heart, program which aims to help you understand and to become your loving self. This is KMET 1490 AM, Palestine News Radio live. And I'm Dr. Mitra Rashidian. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and a certified sexologist. And I'm here along with my wonderful friend, colleague, and business partner, Dr. Robert Jaffe.
Thank you. Happy to be here. And I am Dr. Rashidian's co-host today on our program, which will be all about sex and sexuality and relationships. And we want to welcome you. We're here actually for 2 hours. We're going to be doing this show on sex and sexuality and then following it up with our second hour from 4 o'clock on to 5 o'clock, which is about trauma, addictions, codependency, and relationships. And we want you to join us and feel free to call us at any time during this hour. Our number is 951-922-3532. We'd love to hear from you. Feel free when you call in to give us your name or don't. And then just tell us why you're calling and what you would like to talk to us about.
Exactly. And, this program is for you. Therefore, the more you contact us and the more you share about what you like to hear about, then we are better able to provide you with a program that best suits your need and your desires and your wants. And in particular about a program that is about human sexuality, and human sexuality being a taboo topic to discuss and to share and to talk about makes it really important, for this is a place for you to come in and to, tell us what are some of your sexual concerns, what are your experiences, and the details and everything. And that's why we are here for, to help you out to understand better your sexual self, and then be able to identify, the challenges that you're experiencing and how you may overcome those challenges.
And I want to add that if you do call in, we're not going to do a mini therapy session with you. But what we will do is we will listen to what you have to say, and then if you ask a question or if you just want to share, that's fine too. But if you ask a question, we will then discuss our question with the audience. But you don't have to worry that we're going to be doing any kind of therapy with you. We don't think that it's a good forum to do that. Quick fix therapy is actually giving the wrong idea about therapy. If it were a quick fix, most people are bright enough to figure it out, And so anything that you want to bring up, anything sexual, anything about your relationships, we're here to help.
Exactly. And in this program about human sexuality, we're going to be talking about a variety of anything related to sexuality. And all of these materials that we are representing here, they are research-based. They are not opinion-based. They are based also on clinical experiences and practices. So you can trust the sources that the information you're receiving here are accurate.
Mm-hmm.
And
absolutely.
Yeah.
And we want to encourage you to be open and honest and frank, and we will do our best to answer. And should you ask something that we don't know, we will admit that. And we will also tell you that we will look into it and come up with an answer for you.
Exactly. I mean, collectively, you and I, we have how many years of experience together?
More than 2, more than 20, more than 40, maybe more than 60.
More than 60 years.
Yeah.
Yes. So, all right. Okay. So here we go. Topic of sexuality. For this week, I mean, have you ever asked yourself, what happens, when sex stops in a relationship or for an individual,
mm-hmm.
right? We know that for a variety of reasons, people decide not to have sex and not to be sexually active. We see that, when the relationships are broken, people get kind of mad at each other or mad at themselves, or they go into the, self-punishment zone that, I will never ever have sex again, things like that. So we see that sex stops, during pregnancy. I have this couple that they just got pregnant and then they were kind of fearful and concerned, do people have sex when they are pregnant? What happens to the baby, right? So we had a very interesting discussion about that with them. Sex stops when divorce happens, right? In particular for women that, for a while they just go into the zone of, they just want to find themselves and they just want to experience life on their own for a while. So they stay away from relationships and even masturbation. And also sex stops when there is an illness going on, right?
Right.
And so also sex stops when people go through cancer, or if they also, they don't feel good about their bodies, right?
Right.
So there are a variety of reasons that people, experience and believe about. They rationalize it for themselves as to why sex has to stop for them, right? So whether that's temporarily or, some people go even, for the rest of their life, they just avoid having sex of any kind, including masturbation. And then, but we see that, in therapy and per research, that doing that has its own consequences.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And then people sometimes they don't realize that how these consequences are impacting both their mental and physical health. And here today we're going over some of them.
Right. And I also want to say, that sex we now know is a very healthy form of communication, and also very healthy for your body and for your emotions. And sex is not just for procreation.
Right.
If it were just for procreation, then once the person would be pregnant, then that person would no longer have any sex drive. And it wouldn't make sense for the male to have a sex drive in a monogamous relationship, right? If it were only about pregnancy. But instead, we now know that that sex drives last throughout our lifetime.
Exactly.
Right.
Right. Actually, we know that we talked, I think, about this last week, that we said that when we look at the images of, infants, while they are still, in mom's tummy, we see that a male child can have full erection. And then we know that baby female infants, they can have lubrication, at the age of three days old.
Yes.
At that early, right?
Yes.
And then those feelings, those sensations, the need, for it stays with us for the rest of our lives until we die. And even though, when we look at those images to an unborn child, we see that many of them do suck them, thumb sucking, right? And we're wondering why that happens. But then again, that's how the child, learns about sexuality. That's one of the initial point to learn about that. And then when they are born with that desire to use that desire, that's how they all connect to their mom. That's how they get that loving connection with their mom while they are feeding themselves. So we see that desire for love, desire for sex, desire for connection is a concept that it is born with us. So it's not something that develops later. No, it's part of our strong drives.
Yes.
Just like hunger, you know.
And we also know that we're talking about the connection between the infant and the child, the infant and the mother, that a baby's eyesight is very blurry when they're born. However, they can see faces and delineate faces from about 6 to 12 inches. 6 to 12 inches is about the distance from the breast to the face.
To the face.
And so we now know that the way nature designed it is for the baby, while the baby is drinking in the breast milk, is also for the baby to be drinking in the mother's expression of pleasure and love.
Right.
While the baby is nurturing on the milk. And that's the beginning of bonding.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So, the infant learns that about the world around himself or herself, and the baby learns about, his or own, sex drives during this communication system, because it is a communication system.
Yes.
Right. So it's basically, sexuality, it is an undeniable, phenomena in our lives. And then what makes us decide to stop having sex has to do with belief system, has to do with our perception, has to do with our attitude, and basically has to do with the life experiences, which includes traumatic experiences.
Yeah, and also it can be hormonal changes.
Could be hormonal changes,
right.
But even with that, still, people are able to have sex.
They are.
If they want to do that.
Uh-huh.
So the very first one, which I think, profoundly is experienced by many people when they stop having sex, is that, usually people may feel more anxious.
Yes. Yeah. And of course, all the chemicals that are released during sex for both men and women, the feel-good chemicals that we bring into the sexual experience are relaxants. Right? We feel happy and we feel relaxed. And certainly after orgasm, we feel very content and we feel relaxed. And even though that contentment and that relaxation, we're not aware of it going on for a long period of time, it does actually affect us for a long period of time.
Yes, it does.
And so, people who don't have sex don't get that, and so often carry a lot more stress and anxiety in their bodies.
Exactly. I mean, people say, people could, to begin with, they could be anxious. And then they say, well, when they are anxious, who wants to have sex, right? So that by itself, it's a start of, experiencing more stress and more anxiety, not knowing that having sex is actually lowers the anxiety. And then not having sex also doesn't allow the release of certain hormones that helps stress to be lowered, right? So, and also, those who have a, active sex life, they seem to be happier, they seem to be more energetic, right? So therefore, we see that those who decide to say, for a variety of reasons, okay, no more sex for me, they report more stress, they report more anxiety, they report more depression, they report more tiredness, right? And definitely a much less happier life.
Yes.
Right.
Correct.
So that's one of them. And then the second one, when we look at that, we say that, people who avoid sex, their heart may not work. Right?
Now that's interesting, because that's something that is not widely known, and certainly I haven't heard that before.
Right.
That your heart may not work as well.
May not work as well.
Yeah.
So, we just got our cue for commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to discuss about that. And, we'd like to hear from you. So please call us about your experience of not having sex at 951-922-3532.
Talk to you soon.
is Heart-to-Heart program at KMET 149 AM, ABC News Radio. Dr. Mitra and Dr. Robert here on another episode of Human Sexuality. Our phone number here is 951-922-3532. Please call us. We would like to hear from you and your story and your concerns so we can better offer you a program that best, fits your need. And you may also visit us at our YouTube at heart-2-heart.online/YouTube. Dr. Robert Jaffe, we were talking about, what happens when sex stops.
Right. And then the first thing you talked about is that your anxiety level may increase.
Right.
And then the second thing that you talked about, which I hadn't heard before, is that your heart may not work as well.
Exactly. So according to research, people who have sex once a month or less get heart disease more often than those who have it twice a week or so. And part of the reason could be that, you get a bit more exercise and are less likely to be anxious or depressed. But it could also be that if you have more sex, you're physically and mentally healthier in the first place, which we know these are some of the components of having a healthier heart. Right?
Right.
So the increase in blood flow, right? The less anxiety, less depression, overall helps people to have a healthier heart altogether.
Yes.
I have worked with patients that they have suffered from heart disease, and one of the profound, aftermath is that they go through high level of anxiety and depression. And the first thing that they do, because they're afraid of challenging their heart physicality and physical function, they stop having sex. And I have had couples, telling me that how much that has hurt their, lifestyle and their relationships. And then one complains that the one with the heart problem, kind of less like them anymore. They don't pay attention to the other partner anymore. So they go through a variety of challenges about the relationship rather than understanding what somebody with heart disease is going through, and then how out of fear, or sometimes, because of physicality, they stop sex.
A lot of times out of fear, I think.
Yeah.
But I also want to add something that that I found very interesting when I started studying psychology, and that was a book that was published, excuse me, that was published, I think, in the 1960s. I might be mistaken, but it was around that time. A Dr. Norman Cousins, who was a physician and a researcher, came down. He was actually investigating the brain chemicals that might be associated with low ability to fight off infections, and what made some people get sick and other people not get sick. And he discovered a big correlation between emotions and our ability to fight off disease. And coincidentally, he came down with cancer while he was doing it. And what he discovered in his research was that negative emotions such as fear, anxiety, anger, guilt, shame, sadness, those actually inhibited our body's ability to fight off disease.
Right.
And so he figured, well, if that's the case, perhaps positive chemicals can help us to heal from disease. And so he came down with cancer, and the prognosis wasn't good. But what he decided to do was, and I don't recall if they had chemo or what other treatments they had, but one of the things that he decided to do was to get a bunch of comedies. And he went to his home, and he started watching these comedies. At that time, Abbott and Costello, The Three Stooges, Groucho Marx, these things. And he just was laughing. Then he laughed and he laughed. And day after day, that's how he spent a lot of his time. And at the end of a certain period of time, he went back to the doctors, and they were amazed because there was no sign of the cancer. And this book, Anatomy of an Illness, is the description of his journey, and actually started a lot of the modern research, which talks about the positive effects of joy. And sex is definitely one of them, because sex is a great pleasure, and we are creating positive experiences, sexual experiences, and connection with other people in a deep, meaningful way that is very healing. And so when I'm looking at your notes where it says your heart may not work as well, I'm thinking of, yes, the physical heart, but I'm also thinking of your heart in terms of your ability to care for yourself and for others, or
yes.
our ability to connect with and empathize.
Right.
We call that the heart as well.
We call that the heart as well. You're absolutely correct. And yes, I have heard about similar research, and I'm not sure if we are talking about the same person or not. But there was this person that, had cancer, and then he decided to do nothing but laugh. And through that laughing, he managed to heal himself.
And that was Dr. Norman Cousins.
Right? Maybe we're talking about the same person.
Yeah, could be.
Right? Could be. But yeah, heart disease, or people who, stop having sex due to a variety of reasons, and primarily is depression and anxiety, they're not helping their heart.
Right.
So even if they don't have a disease, they are leading that way. So the best thing is that, when that happens, have a consultation with physicians, or physicians are not really proactive talking about sexuality. So have a talk with an expert about this situation, because that's a serious issue.
And physicians, not only do they not generally talk about sexuality, they often don't talk about the role of emotions.
Right.
And they treat it very very matter of fact, as though it's all physiological changes, rather than looking at the etiology, the causes of that, and that related to stress, which we talk a lot more about stress than we ever have, but also about the ability to create positive feelings within ourselves as a healing experience.
Exactly. Then the next step that's really interesting is that how it impacts, exercise, right? So this is a different type of exercise, right? When people have sex, on average, they burn 5 calories per minute, right? But the process of having sex and getting to orgasm, it's a process that impacts the entire body. Right. So essentially, we're looking at this type of a specific type of exercise that impacts everything, all of our organs, all of our, circulatory process, the breathing process. And those are something that when people have sex, they start working. Right. And then, so not having sex, kind of stops that process, and people usually get, less oxygen, right? And then when that process doesn't happen to body, that's one of the reasons that people feel more tired, more exhausted, more kind of a fatigue, right? Because their body, it hasn't gone through that process of kind of waking up and getting charged by all that wonderful hormones that we have in our body that make us happy, during and after sex. Right. And so, of course, people usually try to make up, the exercise, this type of exercise by any other form of exercise, which is good, which is definitely, recommended if they don't want to have sex. But still, a good exercise may not be as beneficial as the exercise that people get as a result of having sex.
Right. Yeah, I mean, doing physical exercise when there's no sexual charge eliminates a lot of the hormones that the sexual charge brings up.
Right.
And those are healing hormones.
Exactly.
They're pleasurable, but they're also healing hormones.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, and an adult body needs those transactions, those what do you call them? Exchange of all the hormones and the release of all the hormones.
Yes.
And if that doesn't happen, we may feel fatigue as a result of that. The other part that I hear about, and I see it here, in research that, makes definitely sense. Have you ever asked yourself that you frequently lose your key, lose your wallet, lose your rings, you forget about what you plan to make for dinner, or you forget your list of grocery shopping. Simple things that, you believe that, oh my God, how can I do that? I'm not old, but I'm getting forgetful, right? And that's precisely, what happens, okay? So it's not, so much, about forgetfulness. It's because that having regular sex, seems to be linked to improved memory, especially if people are between the ages of 50 and 89, and it is not clear why. But that's what happens, so when people, become, usually during this age, we see that adults say, oh my God, I have no idea where I put my grocery shopping, or they want to go pick up their, dry cleaning, and they forget to do it at the very last minute, right? So many little things, but important daily tasks, and people become forgetful about those. So research suggests that it has to do with lack of sex, or not enough sex. And this is what happens. They don't have enough evidence about how not having sex impacts memory, but they know so far that it does.
Yes. Yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah. Okay. And then another thing that happens as a result of not having sex, or very minimal sex, is that, people's immune system becomes very weak than what it needs to be.
Yes, it can definitely impact the immune system, right? That's what we were talking about before with Dr. Cousins, about the fact that his cancer was cured by laughing, because the laughter brings up a lot of the same chemicals that sex does. Right.
Right. So again, you see that by the release of hormone, that they are involved during sex, and their discharges and release of all those wonderful, amazing, miraculous hormones that we have. Our immune system can become much stronger. But we know that, again, per research, weekly sex seems to boost our immune system compared to those who have it less often. And then part of it also, it has to do with the high level of some sort of germs that just kind of stays in our body, and release of those hormones can get rid of them. And I'm not sure how that happens, but that's according to research. And then basically we see that people who have sex more than twice a week, they have a better immune system to fight those germs that they are in our body or outside our body. Isn't that interesting? I mean, when you think about it, how not only sex makes people feel great about themselves, but it also helps them to stay healthy in so many different ways.
Right. Well, I think that I think for the most part we haven't understood how powerful emotions are.
Right.
And so sex is a process. It's an expression, but it also brings emotions. And the whole process of having sex, especially with another person. I mean, having sex by yourself is also very healthy.
It is.
But especially with another person, it's a validation of your worthiness, of your lovability, of your attractiveness, and so that validation is very powerful, and it makes us feel good and affects us in so many good ways. And improving your immune system is certainly one of them.
Yeah, and then thank you for that insight, and which makes me think, what makes cultures to kind of consider sex as a taboo, phenomena, and control people that way when they, in fact, it's not the sex that they're taking away, but they're taking away, in addition, their health, their physical health, their mental health, away from them.
People have been throughout history trying to control each other.
Right.
And people who have power have control. And the people who have power, sometimes be they politicians or be they in the clergy, often recognize that they have power, and power can be very intoxicating. And so trying to control a person's sex life is a very powerful thing to do. And sex, because it itself is such a powerful drive, threatens the people in power, because it tells the people in power, you can't control me. But of course, if the people in power, legislate or mandate that you only have sex under these certain conditions, under these certain circumstances, then they get more power, and the populace gets more disempowered.
Exactly. So we got our notice for commercial break, and we're going to be continuing to talk about this fascinating topic right after our commercial break. We would like to hear from you. Please call us 951-922-3532. Welcome back from our commercial break. Dr. Mitra and Dr. Robert here at Heart-to-Heart program at KMET 1490 AM ABC News Radio. We're talking about what happens when people stop having sex. We would like to hear from you. Our phone number here live is 951-922-3532.
Good. So maybe we can just review what we've talked about.
Well, we talked about so far that, when people stop having sex, they may feel more anxiety, more depression. On the physical level so far, they may experience some issues with their heart functioning. They may feel less energetic because, sex as a form of exercise definitely provides us with certain hormone that our body needs for more energy and feeling more happy and feeling more tuned, right? That we may not be able to get that from other form of, external exercises, right? And also it may provide some level of forgetfulness, right? Such as losing your keys or your, list of shopping or things like that. And then, of course, it impacts again on a physical level. It may lower our immune system. And then, so that's what we have talked about so far.
Great.
And then the next one that, is very profound, of course, as well as the other ones, is how not having sex can change relationships, especially romantic relationships. When two people have sex together, it kind of releases, the brain releases this chemical, which we call it afterglow. Right?
Yes.
That it does last for at least 2 days, and helps to bond partners over a long-term time. And then without it, they could lose some of the satisfaction of their relationship. We know that a healthy, happy sexual relationship, couples who do it at least once or twice a day, twice a week, seem to be the happiest, and which also can help build trust and also increase understanding between them as well. Basically, connect them as as couples together, maintain the relationship in a loving way, maintaining the attraction going on, and therefore maintaining the intimacy going on. And through this having sex, they can learn about themselves, they can learn about each other, and through trust and intimacy, they can also attend to each other's needs. And basically create a supportive dynamic for both of them, where they can come together and appreciate each other, and knowing that one is there for them at the time that they need it, depending on how they need each other, right? So sex is a part of a healthy relationship, and without that, the relationship basically can, I mean, I'm not suggesting that it's gonna die, but all that love and affection kind of goes in the dormant, kind of a situation where people don't feel the connection and between themselves anymore. Is more of a habit of living together. Sometimes,
and sometimes, for reasons, that, for reasons because of illness or hormonal difficulties, sex can't be a regular thing with couples. They can still connect emotionally, they can still connect spiritually. However, that even in those relationships, there's usually a desire for more closeness, and people need to understand that without sex, it just puts a little more stress on the relationship.
Yes, exactly, right. The other one that's also, I think is very important and actually has other impacts on its own. When sex doesn't happen, there will be lack of sleep, right? Which today we know lack of sleep actually, is one of the causations of obesity, right?
Right.
So without sex, people can miss out on the hormones that promotes kind of restful, sleep. It's like prolactin, I think, and oxytocin. So we need these two for sleeping. Women usually get an estrogen boost that helps them even more so in that. And then the reverse also is true as well. So we know that I see lots of research about lack of sleep and how not only about obesity, but also it increases, causes diabetic type 2, right? It lowers, definitely, immune system. It impacts brain function. People get tired. So lack of sleep is really not only, as a result of not having sex, it by itself is problematic, but also, the impact, negative impact of it in variety of, daily life is significant. Imagine somebody is functioning a full day at work without having proper sleep, right? People become more, impatient. People become more stressed, out. They don't feel like participating. They don't feel like, doing other things. They don't feel like doing exercise. They don't feel like going out with their friends. So basically, lack of sleep, impacts many areas, which ultimately brings a person's physics down as well, right?
Yes.
So if sex, helps people to fall asleep, which it does, so why not use that instead of a sleeping pill?
Yeah,
Right.
there's a reason why men and women, when they're joking around, say to the other person, "You need to get laid."
Yes.
Right?
Right.
because that we intuitively know that makes us feel better, and that also helps us in a lot of different ways with stress
Yeah.
and self-esteem and a lot of things.
Right. And then, having sex, when they release all those, happy hormones and body is relaxed, there is no reason for body doesn't fall asleep.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
So there you go. Another way so that you can eliminate, sleeping pills for, for this problem if you are experiencing that. Also, sex can be a good way to take, people's mind off of any aches and pain that they have, right? But, it does, basically sex does more than that. Orgasm causes, people's body to release, endorphin and then other hormones that can help, ease kind of pains in the area, headaches, backaches, legs and other part of body. It helps arthritis pain and menstrual cramps go away.
Yeah, it's interesting when you mention headaches, right? Because the title of the ebook that we're writing right now is Not Tonight, Honey, I Have a Headache.
Yes.
And of course, the answer to that is, well, wait a second, I have the cure for the headache. Right? But usually the person is saying, no, and sometimes the headache is just a metaphor for something else.
Exactly. Yes, but that's not the metaphor that here we're talking about. People actually
get headaches.
They get headaches, get migraine headaches, or what it seems to be, look like a migraine headache, and then I do have clients that they come in and they tell me that, several nights in a row they can't sleep because they have this profound headache, right? And each time the headache happens at different area of their head. Sometimes it is in the forehead, sometimes it's in the palm of the head, sometimes it is in the back of the head, right? So it's not in one area. And then along with that, shoulder pain, neck pain, back pain, hip pain. So, and then when we talk about, their sex life, who has time for sex?
Right.
And I don't want to have sex with this guy, or I don't want to have sex with this woman, they're horrible to me. And so then again, we realize, and we have talked about this, those who come in with relationship problem, they have sexual problem, and vice versa. Right. So, and then the other part is that when people stop having sex, they don't realize this, but here comes the famous, phrase, use it or lose it, right? People start having, many sexual complications within, shortly after. I mean, for each person is different, right? They start having like premature ejaculation. They start having lack of desire, erectile dysfunction, orgasmic dysfunction, even sexual pain. So, and then they don't realize that most of this is psychological, and it has to do with their lack of the, motivation to have sex, and they're not looking at the underlying causes of what makes a person go to that direction of saying, I'm not going to have sex anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just about behavior, it's about understanding what's going on inside that's causing the feelings. If you're not interested in sex, why are you not interested in sex? And in order to discover reasons, we have to create a safe environment that we're not going to judge the person. That's why a lot of people like coming in for therapy, is because the therapist, if they're good, are not going to be judging them. They're just going to be there to help them understand themselves and to offer some solutions that they may not have thought of. Exactly.
I mean, many of my own clients that I have seen that they decided not to have sex, when we looked at, at a deeper level in their relationships, we saw profound level of sexual traumas. We saw profound level of relationship traumas, profound level of, growing up traumas, right? So people, one of the reasons they don't have sex is because they don't feel good about themselves.
Right.
Right. And they take that into their relationship. Right.
Well, they might not feel good about themselves,
Right.
or they may be very hurt and angry, either at their partner or at people who have hurt them in the past, or both.
Right. So if that goes unnoticed, if those are not processed, if people don't go to therapy, all that negative, emotional that they are associated with the experience, with their prior experience, negative experience, they take that into their next relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get stuck there pretty soon, sooner than later, because those experiences, since they are not resolved, they are not processed, the impact of it is still with the person.
Right.
And then, we know that, negative emotions goes to only 3 places.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
You want to say those?
Yeah. Well, our negative emotions go in 1 of 3 places, 2 of 3 places, or 3 of 3 places. They can go in 1, 2, or 3, or all 3. And the first place that negative emotions go is into our bodies. So if we have negative emotions, it can affect our bodies, just as you were talking about before. We can develop symptoms, headaches, stomach aches, backaches. It can also go into our bodies in terms of a lowered immune system. So we're easily affected by opportunistic diseases. So that's one place. The second place, it goes into self-sabotage. So you were mentioning before misplacing our keys. I'm not saying that every time you misplace your keys, it's self-sabotage,
Right.
but it could be. It could be, and that's just a very minor way in which we self-sabotage.
Forgetfulness.
Forgetfulness
Yes.
can be self-sabotage. There can be a whole host of ways in which we self-sabotage. I self-sabotaged for a long time because I loved to play tennis and I wouldn't play. That was negative feelings that I was carrying. And then the third way is we take those negative feelings and we imagine that the people close to us are making us feel that way. So we project them onto them, and whoever's closest to us becomes the culprit. Whereas the person close to us may have nothing to do with it, they may have little to do with it, they may have a lot to do with it, or they may be part of the problem, but not all of the problem, but we project it outward. We don't take responsibility and say, this is something I am carrying and I've created, and I'm the one who has to learn how to heal those negative feelings.
Exactly. Yes, and thank you. That was beautifully said. And
Thank you.
Sure. And one of the self-sabotaging factor for women is that they become overweight.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we see that there are women that they are overweight because they want to keep themselves that way in order to avoid having sex.
Right. And then the question is, why do they want to avoid having sex? And then finding that out and helping the person deal with whatever those reasons are can help the person feel better about themselves and make it easier for them to lose weight if that's something that's important to them.
Exactly. So basically, when people stop having sex, we need to look at, both psychological factors and physical factors associated with that.
Mm-hmm.
And we thank you for listening to this program. And if you have any question, please feel free to let us know. 951-922-3532. And with that, I'm inviting you to please join us at 4 o'clock for an episode of Codependency, Trauma, Addictions, and Relationship with hosting Dr. Robert Jaffe.
And Dr. Mitra Rashidian will be my co-host.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. See you back at 4 o'clock.
Okay.